iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing.
Austin, welcome to iHeartRadio Broadway.
Thank you for having me.
So first and foremost, congratulations on season 2. I'm a huge fan of the show. I've told all the cast members I have so far interviewed that I love this show tremendously.
Thank you very much.
What was it like seeing Jane Levy get a Golden Globe nomination yesterday for her role?
It's Levy, number one.
Levy, sorry.
That's okay. And it was awesome. It was just so exciting. I mean, no one works harder than Jane, except me. Jane and I together. And she deserves, I think she deserves all the awards. The stuff that she has to navigate every single week on the show, between the drama and the comedy and the musical, and somebody who is not a professionally trained singer or dancer, she has to be the conduit from which everybody interpreting everybody's feelings and emotions. There's certain episodes, like episode 8 of the first season, which was the glitch episode, where she had to sing 6 songs in that show and do physical comedy, romantic comedy, heartfelt drama. I mean, I feel like there's nothing she can't do, and I'm just happy that she's getting recognized for it, because I think what she's doing is truly amazing.
So let's talk about going from season 1 to season 2. Season 1, I felt like everyone was in Zoe's world, dealing with the death of her father, the soon-to-be death of her father. And then season 2, it's a lot about Zoe going into everybody else's world when they're dealing with their own issues and their own situations. Has that been fun to write for, the other characters besides Zoe, what Zoe's going through with her heart songs?
Yeah, I think anytime we can further dimensionalize characters on the show and get deeper insights into who they are and what makes them tick and what their own internal emotions and rhythms are, I think it just fleshes out the characters, enriches the world, and shows that there's other people that we can go to for story. So I love any time that we can do a deeper dive and peel away the layers and find out what's really going on with the characters.
I really love the storyline of Max and Mo starting to work together, and that friendship and bond that's happening, but also Mo going through, trust issues with working with the business partner and things like that. So I think that relationship has been really fun to watch this season.
Thank you. They didn't have that much to do together in season 1. But I did love their scenes together. And I just, when trying to think about who should be paired, what are the interesting couplings and unlikely arcs of season 2, I kind of just like the idea of this interesting odd couple relationship between the two of them and the various ways that we could explore that and explore what it's like to go into business with a friend and the challenges of that. So that's been fun for us.
So you're also no stranger to musical theater. You wrote the book for First Date, you worked on Sound of Music Live, but with this show, you're basically creating a new musical every, 8 or 9 days? So talk to me about 8 days. So talk to me about the challenges of that grueling schedule to really create something new every 8 days.
Well, number 1, I don't sleep. Number 2, I don't sleep. Number 3, Mandy Moore and I, the choreographer, not the actress, we worry a lot. We spend a lot of time stressing out and worrying and saying, how can we do this? It's intense. I mean, most musicals who go to Broadway, they take 8 years to go to Broadway. We do a new musical every 8 days. And the degree of difficulty and the high wire act of that is always a challenge. And it's not like it gets easier now that we've done 20 some episodes. The other day we celebrated their 100th dance that she had created on the show, 100 of them in less than a year and a half. So it's endlessly challenging. What we really try to do is, with every musical number, it's never just people standing there and singing. There's always some conceit or some idea or some notion behind the number. And so in the writer's room, we spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's the right song, lyrically, emotionally, to convey the idea that's happening, then that's like step one. Then step two is being able to clear the songs. Step three is coming up with conceits for the songs. Step four is working with Harvey Mason Jr., our amazing music producer, on demos of the songs and making sure that we're getting the tone right and the vibe of that. And sometimes we'll go through, up to 10 demos of a song. Then it's about rehearsing with the actors. Then it's pre-recording with the actors. And all this time, Mandy's working with the skeleton crew to conceive of the dance. Then it's bringing the actors in. Then it's noting, then getting the directors involved, and then shooting those things. I mean, every one of them has a tremendous multi-step process that I worked on a bunch of different television shows before Zoe's. That job alone is a full-time job, and running a show on top of that. So that's the no sleep. But at the same time, there's something that happens when we're on set and a musical number's going on and the crew gets to see it for the first time. You feel the energy shift in the room. And also going to the dance space where Mandy and Jillian and Jeff, that part of the dance team with her, are creating these numbers. That's my happiest space. That's the stuff that feels most like being back in theater rehearsal. I was a theater major in college. I went to Stage Door Manor.
Stage Door Manor.
So I've been a musical theater lover my whole life. And I've always wanted to do a TV show that can capture some of the spirit of that. And thankfully, a network said yes to one and really let us do what we want to do. And so much of the show too is also being shot in these long oneers with zero cutting or like one or two cuts in it. And the reason for that is because I really wanted to showcase the dance and showcase the performance and not chop it to pieces. And that was another way to kind of make it feel one step closer to live theater.
Well, and I feel like those one-shot takes with the musical numbers in particular, they feel more organic. It's not heavily edited. So it does feel like the natural progression of going from speaking to singing. And it doesn't feel like the hokey musical theater montages that sometimes happen.
That was all part of the original conceit. I spent a lot of time when we were shooting the pilot, or before shooting the pilot, with Mandy and our pilot director, Richard Shepard, talking about what do we want the show to feel like? What do we want it to look like? And for me, the number one thing was exactly what you said. I just didn't want it to be edited within an inch of its life and chopped to pieces. These 2-second long shots of a hand going up in the air or whatever. I really felt like it was important to, I like it when you can see it. And especially if you can be creative with the conceits or visually go around it all, it's just an opportunity to explore it in a way that's a little bit different than what people are used to. La La Land, Mandy worked on La La Land. That's a big inspiration for me. And there's that whole number with Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone where they're overlooking the city, where that so much of that is just one shot of them dancing, and it's magical and you get to see it all. So I respond to that. I
also think the really lovely thing about this show is it's not your typical musical where it's set in a high school or it's set in, one specific love story. There's literally something for everyone in this show. There is Zoe's story. There's, the Mitch storyline that we're still talking about in season 2, but there literally is something for everyone. Love, family, having a new baby. There's just so much heart and humor to this show that it's so hard to classify it other than just a really wonderful hour-long program each week.
Thank you. It certainly doesn't, it doesn't adhere to this is a straight comedy or this is a straight drama. I think that, in terms of classification, especially when it comes to awards or something like that, it's not defined linearly that way, but I kind of view it as, look, I pour my heart into the show so hard every week. And I think that life, and at least the way I perceive life, is comedy, is drama, is emotional. And so trying to reflect that and have a sense of humor about it and a little bit of razzle dazzle within that, that's kind of hopefully my worldview. And I hope that some of that feels hopeful and connective and resonant with people.
So let's talk about the song selections. I mean, the songs so far in both season 1 and season 2 have been absolutely amazing. Is there one or two songs in particular that you're hoping to get in there for either the rest of season 2 or in the future? Is there like a dream song that you want to include?
I have like a dream list of artists There are certain artists that I have been told from the beginning are very, very challenging to get, and that don't often give up the rights to their songs. And a lot of times it's not even worth trying. I had to write personal letters in season 1 to 6 or 7 people to get them to say yes. Van Morrison was one of them. Paul Simon was another one. Beyonce for Destiny's Child. So Jen Ross, our music supervisor, has been pretty clear with me that I could give you the list of some of these names, but U2 is a challenging one. Taylor Swift is a challenging one. Adele is a challenging one. Coldplay, Bruno Mars. There is a list of people that I would love to go into their catalog, and we're still saying like, well, maybe we could try, but it's also sometimes we have a short turnaround with some of these. And so it's like, it's going to take a month to get an answer. And sometimes we just don't have the month. So yes, that there's always artists that I'm like eyes on the prize and going to continue to try to reach those heights.
And I also feel like you have surprised people with some of the song choices. And I'm talking specifically about this week's episode, because this will come out next week, but Tobin's song, where he gets a solo moment, and that song choice, it's really surprising, but it's a beautiful performance.
What? Thank you. What surprised you about it?
The song choice in itself, it was not what I expected it to be. And I even had to sit and Google the lyrics to figure out what song it was. His performance is just absolutely magical in that episode, Kapil's episode. And it's just a beautiful song. It's such a beautiful performance.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, why am I saying thank you? He did it. Sure. I mean, we were looking at a specific conceit there and thinking of the idea of what it's like to be, Tears of a Clown type stuff. We didn't do Tears of a Clown because the lyrics didn't quite match up. But certainly the idea of a person, I relate to this, who puts on this outward face sometimes of being the funny guy. But there's a lot happening underneath the surface of the funny guy. So wanting to kind of expose that in a real way.
So let's talk about next week's episode. Simon has just it's not really a bombshell, but has told his truth at the press conference for Spark Point. And then next week's episode deals with a lot of racial issues in the workplace, having your identity seen, and telling your truth. And it's a beautiful episode, and I've had the fortune to see it ahead of time. Why was it important for you to create this episode?
I think that certainly when the room started talking about conceits and ideas and subjects matters that we could delve into for season 2, it was when the Black Lives Matter movement was happening, still happening, but when it was really gearing up. And we just felt like we have African-American characters on the show, and we felt like it was important to go deeper into their story. And we also started looking at racism in tech and issues in Silicon Valley. And there's a lot of real race issues in Silicon Valley, and there are not a lot of Black executives in high positions. And we just felt like there was an opportunity there to talk about stuff that was sort of being discussed in the world and the culture right now, and to also shine a light in some of these challenges in Silicon Valley. And then it was all about having hard conversations in the room, having hard conversations with the actors, wanting everybody to feel like their point of view was expressed and mattered and was authentic. And I brought some of my own experiences with a few conversations I had had with friends into that. And we all just kind of tried to say, what is it that we want to say here? How can we say it in a way that isn't going to solve racism in 42 minutes on national television, network television, isn't going to make Zoey the white savior in the storyline, but is still going to deal with stuff that is real and deal with it in a real way. And also to look at music that did this in a similar way, and to only showcase, diverse artists in the episode, and only have people of color on the show singing those songs, and bringing in other people to contribute in this episode. We brought in Luther Brown to co-choreograph with Mandy. Zora Bikangaga, who is Ugandan, came in. He's a writer on the show. He wrote it. We just felt like our goal with that episode was to be authentic and finding that sweet spot of making all of those things work in a way that felt true and not inflammatory and not self-congratulatory was a lot of the work, and to make sure that the actors felt like they were being represented properly.
It's a beautiful episode, and I think it's delivered with such heart and compassion. And I think the characters are still very much true to themselves. They're not playing characterizations of their normal characters. And I just think it's a beautiful episode, and it's such a great way to deal with subject matters that are hard to talk about.
The whole thing was hard. Race is hard. Race is challenging, and race is something that everyone feels very strong feelings about. And so navigating the emotionality of that was a real challenge. I had to have really challenging conversations with cast members about the lines and how and my own blind spots, and what are we trying to say and what is not being conveyed properly. But then also there's some numbers in that episode that are some of my favorite numbers we've ever done. Simon's first number in that episode is maybe my number one, certainly top 3 we've ever done. And so I also like that it enabled us to open up a little bit of the musical styling and visual language a bit for the episode too.
And Mo's number that he does in the cafe, the restaurant, it's gorgeous too. That's one of my favorite performances.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
me too. I Raise the Roof. That one's like, Jennifer Hudson, like,
it's genius. And then the backup dancers and the backup singers, I'm like, it had everything you wanted it to be.
The last number too. That's the oneer. That whole last number in the restaurant.
It's honestly one of my favorite episodes. I think between that episode, Mo's storyline in the first season with the church storyline, you have delved into quite a lot in just really a season and a half. But I do want to touch upon the cast. Your cast they're brilliant individually, but together they are so good together. And I'm just wondering, could you have dreamed up this casting scenario even 2 years ago?
This show feels to me, I mean, I spent so many years writing pilots and TV shows that didn't get made, that would get to the 3-yard line, the 2-yard line, the 1-yard line, and then not happen. And then for this one to happen, that was so personal, based on losing my dad, hitting all the things that are important to me, with romantic comedy that I love, musical, emotional, and then to go out and, from who knows, like fate, kismet, all that stuff for me, but being able to get these amazingly talented people from the very beginning who were always so committed and real artists. And really, I mean, there isn't somebody on the show who doesn't care. They all care so much. They all think so much. They're all so invested in it. And yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything that I've seen so far that we throw at them that they can't do. And so it's part of that feeling really lucky and blessed to work with such talented people every day. And also it challenges me to continue. It's part of the no sleep. It challenges me to want to be the best for them. So I feel like in a way we all try to keep upping each other's game.
And I know after next week's episode, there's a little bit of a break and then coming back in spring. Anything you can tease out that we're going to be able to see come the next part of season 2?
Yeah, so the break happened because of COVID, and we had we could either put on 6 starting in January and then have a break and then do the next 7, or we could do all of them straight through starting later, and they wanted to start earlier. So that was always planned. The second half of the season goes in all sorts of new directions. We start to develop some new relationships. We bring in a few new characters for some new dynamics that are happening in the second half. Episode 8 is Zoe's 30th birthday party. Episode 9 is another glitch episode, only the glitch this season is something wildly different. We have big surprises and big conceits in just about every episode in the back half. Episode 12, I don't want to spoil it, but that is a big swing, another big swing episode for us.
Any big guest stars that you can kind of tease out to look forward to?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it yet or not. I will say that a familiar character that is perhaps beloved in the Broadway world may be returning.
Okay.
In a certain for some episodes in the back half, and I don't know how much more of that I can say yet because I don't think any of it's been announced, and I don't know the
Well,
rules on that.
we will keep it at that. Austin, again, I'm such a huge fan of the show. I watch every week. It's again so much heart and humor to take you into the start of the week, and I just am a huge fan. That's all I can say. So I appreciate you joining us for iHeartRadio Broadway, and tune in on Tuesdays on NBC to Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist.
Thank you so much, and thank you for supporting the show.
iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing.